That's the line that keeps echoing in my head. Even now. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed that morning. The sunlight slipping through the curtains in those thin, trembling lines. I remember how my fingers shook as I held the hospital envelope I was never meant to see. And I remember the quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't belong in a home where a daughter and mother live together. But before all that, before the truth, before the tears, before the betrayal, I was just a mother who trusted her child. I never imagined trust could be the very thing that almost cost me my life. My name is Samina, and I've lived in this house. The one with the rose bush that refuses to die no matter how many summers scorch it, for the better part of 30 years. A widow for 15. A schoolteacher for most of my life, and a mother to one daughter. Aisha. Aisha, my shining girl. She was the kind of child people would stop in the grocery store to compliment. Big doe eyes, soft voice, polite manners. As she grew older, that gentleness stayed. She was thoughtful, attentive, a little anxious at times, but always caring. After her father passed, she became even more protective of me. Sometimes too protective. If I coughed too long, she panicked. If I walked too fast, she fussed. And when my health started declining last year, fatigue, dizziness, strange aches, she stepped in like a dutiful daughter. She insisted on accompanying me to every appointment. She organized my pills in labeled boxes. She handled the paperwork, the phone calls, the portals, the tests. I didn't question it. If anything, I felt held, cared for. It's strange, isn't it? How safety can sometimes be the setup for tragedy. Those early months were full of tiny moments I didn't pay attention to back then. The way she would hover near the doctor's computer screen. How she'd gently guide conversations before I could speak. How she'd always say, "Don't worry, Mama, everything's routine," even when the doctors said more tests were needed. But I trusted her. I trusted that she understood the world better than I did. These confusing digital portals, these hospital systems, these new medical protocols. Besides, I was tired. Bone tired. It was easier to let her handle things. Our days back then were simple. I would sit in the kitchen, heating parathas on low flame while Aisha rushed around getting ready for her remote job. I'd hear the soft tick of the kitchen clock, the kettle hissing as water boiled, the muffled sound of her bedroom door clicking shut when her meetings began. By evening, she'd come into the living room, tie up her hair in that messy knot she always wore at home, and sit beside me with her laptop. "Mama, show me your BP log," she'd say. I'd hand her my notebook, watching the crease deepen between her eyebrows. A little high. "We should monitor it," she would murmur, tapping something into her spreadsheet. She always seemed tense. Not worried about herself, no, worried about me. Or so I thought. And I foolishly, blindly, believed every reassurance she gave me. The first time I felt a whisper of unease was on a Wednesday afternoon in early spring. I had accompanied Aisha to the hospital for what she called a follow-up. We sat in the waiting room under those harsh fluorescent lights that make everyone look a little sick. The nurse came out with a folder and called my name. But she didn't hand me the folder. She handed it to Aisha. "Here are the printed results," the nurse said. Aisha grabbed the folder so quickly, almost snatched it, that the movement startled me. I reached for it instinctively. "Oh, I'll hold it," she said quickly, pressing it against her chest. "Mama, you don't need to stress. I'll go through it with the doctor." Something about the tone, bright, almost too bright, didn't sit right with me. But the doctor came, and the moment passed. Later that night, as we sat eating dinner, chicken soup for me because I was feeling especially tired, I asked softly, "Aisha, what did the results say?" She didn't look up immediately. She kept stirring her soup, her spoon swirling slow circles. "Mama, everything's fine," she said. "The doctor just wants a bit more testing. Standard stuff. Nothing to worry about." She finally looked at me then, her eyes too big, too innocent. And like a fool, I nodded. "Okay, Beta. I trust you." I didn't see the flash of guilt in her eyes. Not then. I didn't know I had just given her permission to hide the one thing I deserved to know. The truth about my own health. The next few weeks moved on like normal life tends to do, quietly, repetitively, deceptively. I had days of weakness I chalked up to age. Moments of breathlessness I blamed on the summer heat. Headaches I dismissed as dehydration. Aisha dismissed everything. Mama, you worry too much. Mama, just rest. Mama, let me handle it. Her voice had become a soft barrier. Keeping me calm, yes, but keeping me out. Still, I didn't suspect betrayal. Not from my own child. Not until the night I found the envelope. But that comes later. For now, it's enough to say this. The clues were there. Small cracks. Little shadows. Aisha became guarded with her phone. She took calls in her room, whispered with the doctor's office, deleted messages before I could see. When I asked if a test result had come in, she'd say, "Not yet, Mama." Even though I had seen an email notification pop up earlier that morning. But again, trust can make a fool of even the wisest heart. I told myself she was simply protecting me. That she was helping. That stress was bad for my health. And she only wanted me to stay calm. I didn't yet understand the cost of that calm. I didn't yet know the secret she'd been keeping. I didn't know it was growing inside me like a shadow. One that could have taken my life. And the person who kept me in the dark was the same person I brought into this world. The truth didn't heal overnight. Betrayal never does. Especially when it comes from the child you carried, fed, protected, and trusted more than anyone else. For weeks after everything came out, after the hospital finally called me directly, after I confronted Aisha, after the doctor explained how dangerously late my diagnosis was, the house felt heavy. Aisha moved quietly, like she didn't know where to put her hands or how to stand near me without trembling. She cooked my meals, she folded my laundry, she sat outside my bedroom door some nights. But she didn't know how to bridge the space between us. And I didn't know how to be a mother to her and a patient to myself at the same time. Grief can make a wall out of a whisper. I tried to make sense of everything. Her fear, my trust, the consequences. The way my body felt weaker than before. The way she carried guilt like a weight across her shoulders. Sometimes, late at night, I'd pass her room on my way to the bathroom, and I'd hear her crying softly, those muffled sobs a child makes when she thinks her mother is asleep. One night, I stopped outside her door. I don't know why. Maybe because I finally had the strength to listen. Maybe because despite everything, my heart still reached for her. The same way it did the day she was born. I knocked gently. She didn't answer. But I heard her breath hitch. "Aisha," I whispered. "Open the door, Beta." When she did, she looked so small. Her eyes red, her cheeks wet, her shoulders curled inward like a child expecting punishment. "Mama. I'm sorry," she choked. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you. I thought, if you didn't know, you wouldn't get worse. I thought stress would harm you more than anything else." She sank to her knees in front of me, her hands clutching mine. "I never wanted to hurt you. I just couldn't bear to lose you like we lost Daddy. I thought if I could control it, maybe I could keep you." Fear. That is what it was. Not malice, not selfishness. Fear so deep it blinded her. And maybe I understood it too well. Because I had made the same mistake many mothers make. I raised her to think she was responsible for my survival. I cupped her face, lifting her chin so she could see me. "Aisha," I said softly, "you don't protect someone by hiding the truth. You protect them by standing with them through it." She broke down then, the kind of sob that comes from the center of a wound. I held her, stroke by shaky stroke, like I used to when she was little and afraid of thunderstorms. And in that dim hallway, with the sound of both our breaths trembling between us, I let my anger soften, not disappear, but soften enough to give room for something else. Understanding. Treatment began the very next week. Painful, exhausting, humbling treatment. Some days, I couldn't get out of bed. Some days, I felt like my body was made of broken pieces stitched together with hope and weakness. But every day, every single one, Aisha sat by my side. She drove me to appointments. She asked the doctors questions. She learned to listen instead of filter. She learned to update me honestly, even when her voice shook. One afternoon, during a particularly rough treatment session, I felt her slip her hand into mine. Her fingers were cold. "I'm not hiding anything ever again," she whispered. "Even if the truth scares me." I nodded slowly, squeezing her hand. "Good," I said. "Because strength isn't in hiding. It's in facing things together. We didn't erase the past. We didn't pretend nothing happened. But we rebuilt, thoughtfully, slowly, brick by careful brick, the trust we had lost. A wounded relationship is like a bone. If it heals right, it becomes stronger than before. Months later, during a regular checkup, my doctor walked in with a warm smile. "Well, Samina," he said, "your numbers have stabilized. You're responding better than we expected." I closed my eyes, letting that relief sink in. Aisha covered her mouth with both hands, tears forming instantly. But this time, they were tears of gratitude, not guilt. On the drive home, she kept glancing at me through the rearview mirror, as if checking that I was really still there. At a red light, she whispered, "Mama, I'm proud of you." I looked at her reflection, her eyes tender, her voice full, and felt something settle in my heart. "I'm proud of you too, Beta," I said. "You made a mistake, but you walked through it with me. That takes courage." She smiled through her tears. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Now when I sit in our living room and watch her brew my evening tea, carefully, the way the doctor instructed, I see a young woman who carries both her fear and her love honestly. And I've learned something too. A parent isn't supposed to make their child responsible for their life or their death. Love shouldn't be a burden disguised as duty. It should be a shared truth, even when the truth hurts. I still keep my own medical portal access now. Not because I don't trust her, but because trust is healthiest when it stands on equal ground. And sometimes, when Aisha kisses my forehead before bed and says, "Good night, Mama," I hear a softness in her voice, a softness born from mistakes turned into wisdom. We didn't just survive what happened. We grew from it. Together. Life has a way of teaching us that love and fear often look similar, until one of them breaks something. My daughter's fear nearly cost me my life. But facing the truth together gave both of us a new one. Now I wonder, if someone you loved hid something from you for your own good, would you forgive them? Or would the betrayal be too deep to come back from? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if my story reminded you of something in your own life, you're welcome to share that too. And if you want to hear more stories like this, you know what to do.